Gregory, and I'm here with Andrea Williams. She's a registered medical herbalist. She's here to talk to us about our lovely dandelion.
Yes, I am, and it's one of my favourite herbs, Taraxacum officinale. This herb grows throughout the northern hemisphere in New Zealand and Australia. The roots are rich in vitamin A, B, C and D, which is pretty interesting, isn't it? And then minerals wise, it's potassium, calcium, sodium and some phosphorus, iron, nickel, cobalt and copper and zinc. So again, it's very nutritive. The leaves are vitamins A, B, C and D. It's potassium, iron and copper. And the actions is hepatic tonic, anti-rheumatic, choleretic. The leaves are diuretic and anti-lithic. Now the leaves are used in the cardiovascular system where there is edema, fluid retention and kidney stones. And the root is used for anorexia, constipation, cirrhosis, gallstones, hepatitis, which is inflammation of the liver, and if you're exposed to toxins, it's very useful with that as well. So there's a bit of a mouthful there, isn't it?
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and so we've got the dandelion here. And so what we're going to talk about is identifying it. So you can see here that the dandelion has a slight little teeth, I guess, and it comes through to a point here.
Oh.
But you have cat's ear and hawk's beard and hawkbit, which look very similar to dandelion but are not dandelion. So they tend to be quite rough and a bit rounded. This is dandelion because it is sort of going to the point there. When you look out in nature, you'll see that when you touch them, they're either quite hairy or quite rough, and they sort of bolt together a bit as well in the stems. So dandelion is just one stem like this, and it's quite hollow as well. So you know that's dandelion, where the other flowers have a thick stem, and then they have the same sort of flower, which gets confusing, but on the same stem they have 2 or 3 flowers.
Okay.
So to get back to dandelion, it's flat and smooth. It sort of comes to a point, and when it's young it can be like this as well, and it just has that one flower.
Wow.
But if you're still not sure, you can look at botany books, or just ask experts on that, so you can make sure you get the correct identification. But just to be aware, you can get muddled up if you don't know what you're doing.
So how do you harvest it?
Well, I collect the leaves in spring and just use them in my salad, and I don't mind the bitter, I quite enjoy that. And with the root, it's usually 2 years in autumn, and I just do like a square around it with my fork and just loosen up the soil, and basically the root does come out quite easily without breaking, but just don't rip it out. Just it still needs to be loosened up. Just keep doing it till it loosens up, and then you just gently pull out the root. I usually wash it and thoroughly, and then chop it up, and I pop it in the oven and roast it, and I have a lovely drink out of it.
Wow,
yeah,
sounds great.
What do you do? How do you use?
Well, I use it in salads as well. I tend to not like that bitter taste, so I chop it up nice and fine so that and with a nice dressing, and I just make sure my children know that the bitterness isn't a bad thing, because it's actually very, very good for you.
Yes.
That's why it's called a bitter herb. So I also roast it, dry the roots, and I make my own dandelion coffee.
Nice.
And also use it for teas. So yeah, it's great. So you can also make a yummy pesto with it as well. So
sounds delicious. I'm looking forward to learning about that.
yeah. So thank you very much for coming in and talking to us about dandelion.
My pleasure.